Live from Washington, D.C., Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, your host, Jordan Sekulow.
Welcome to Sekulow Live. This is Jordan Sekulow. This is a special episode. We really want to showcase our fight for life. You know, the abortion industry has gone out of control. The laws in New York, the governor in Virginia and his statements. We want to kind of show you exactly what we've been doing at the American Center for Law and Justice to fight for life, not just for the past few weeks, but for decades at the American Center for Law and Justice. This has always been one of our top issues, is the fight for life, the protection of the unborn. And that is the purpose of today's broadcast, to really get you up to speed on how the ACLJ has been fighting for life and how we will continue to fight for the life of the unborn in light of these new, extreme, just out of control, outrageous, I'll say it, disgusting abortion laws being put in place by states like New York and across the country. And of course, the lawsuits that come for any states that pass pro-life legislation. So we want to show you what the ACLJ has been doing for decades to fight for life. Take a look.
We'll now recognize our witness. Pleased to welcome Ms. Cecile Richards, President of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. If you will please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Startling revelations tonight that could put some in the abortion industry in a most uncomfortable position.
I'm proud to be here today speaking on behalf of Planned Parenthood, a leading provider of high-quality reproductive health care in America.
The fetal tissue is obtained with the pregnant woman's permission and can be useful investigating diseases.
Planned Parenthood has been in the news recently because of deceptively edited videos released by a group that is dedicated to making abortion illegal.
Planned Parenthood's Senior Director of Medical Services says prices per body part specimen would likely range from $30 to $100.
The outrageous accusations leveled against Planned Parenthood are offensive and categorically untrue.
I think what we need to look at is the business of abortion. And the business of abortion starts with a sale.
An organization is chopping up children and selling the body parts to the highest bidder.
They can call it whatever they like. The reality is they've been caught red-handed.
I was told it was just a blob of tissue. She looked me dead in the eye. She said, "It's not a baby. It's a blob of tissue."
We really did treat women like second-class citizens.
Do not ever kid yourself. They know exactly what they're doing.
We were driven by this quota.
I didn't want the baggage, in all honesty, of having a child.
I pretended I was fine, but I wasn't fine.
She said, "This is the best choice for you."
They're in the business of abortion. They worship at the altar of abortion.
Most people working in the abortion clinic make more money than they can anywhere else.
Does no one see what's really going on in America? Is this really who we're going to be?
You can sign a petition right now. Stop these new barbaric abortion laws. And they are barbaric. So sign that petition. It's up at aclj.org. Sign the petition today. Let's grow that petition, because these laws, like I said, disgusting, barbaric, they must be stopped. We must counter them, whether it's in court, whether it's by other legislation at the state level, at the federal level. We must keep fighting these barbaric laws to protect the unborn children in America. Sign that petition at aclj.org.
The state of New York just passed one of the most barbaric abortion laws in U.S. history, essentially making it legal to abort a baby at any stage of pregnancy up to the moment of birth. It even removes legal protections for babies born alive from botched abortions. Now, other states are trying to do the same thing. At the American Center for Law and Justice, we've assembled our team to fight back. We're preparing to send Freedom of Information Act letters in an effort to expose exactly how involved Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry were in pushing this new law forward. We're looking at every possible way to challenge the New York law. We're mobilizing to ensure that these laws cannot be used to target pro-life doctors and nurses and force them to perform abortions. And we're examining other legal angles as other states look to pass similar laws. You can make a tremendous difference in this fight to protect life. Add your name today to our petition to expose and defeat barbaric abortion laws. Online, aclj.org.
Can you tell me how many of your affiliates receive the majority of their revenue from abortion?
I don't know that answer.
Could you get it for me?
I'll talk to my team.
Thanks.
But I do think it's important to understand that abortion procedures are probably more expensive than some other procedures that we provide, which might explain what you're trying to get at.
Fear is probably the biggest reason why these girls have an abortion. A lot of them know that it's wrong. A lot of them don't want to do it, but they feel like it's their only way of surviving their life. I just can't have this baby. The guy's not going to stand by me. My parents will not stand by me. My mom's telling me to have it. My friend has had one in the past and she says, just do it, just suck it up for this half an hour and go through this horrible thing and your life will be back to normal.
Crisis pregnancies have all kinds of circumstances that surround them. Perhaps they're young and unmarried. Perhaps they're in an economically compressed circumstance or maybe even a depressed circumstance. It may be that they have family pressures. There may be stigma that is sure to be placed on them if they carry a child to term.
Because she's scared, because she already has other children, because she's poor, because she's single, because the guy ran out on her, because she's in college, because she wants to finish her education, because she just got a promotion at work and she doesn't want to, she doesn't want a baby to come in between her and her career goals. Because she doesn't want to disappoint her parents, because she was raised in the church and she doesn't want anybody to know that she was having sex.
They're confused, they're hurt, they're scared, and abortion is presented as the easy alternative, the painless alternative to eliminate the problem.
I didn't want the baggage, in all honesty, of having a child while I was in college because I had a vision for my life and it didn't include children.
I don't have a car, I don't drive, I have no money, So yeah, the ideal thing would be to have an abortion. And that's what I had 100% decided to do.
It was my third pregnancy in my second marriage with an agreement there would be no more children. Of course, I never expected to get pregnant. And when I found myself pregnant, Roe v. Wade had just happened. It was all in the news. I called my doctor. He said, no problem. We can take care of it.
I remember walking out from the bathroom, holding the pregnancy test, and telling my boyfriend at the time, I'm pregnant. My mind was blank. I had no idea what to do. And so I guess I was looking to him for some answers. And I just remember he looked at me and he said, well, that's not a problem. He said, I've taken other girls to abortion clinics. We'll just take you to a clinic and get it taken care of. And, I would like to tell you that I thought, well, wait a minute, let's talk about this. But I didn't. I just said, okay.
Sat through the counseling part of it. And of course, it was very, you're too young. This is probably going to be your best option. I remember very, very vividly them saying that. So I thought, okay, we borrowed money from his best friend, and at the time that friend was the only one who knew about it, and made the appointment, and I went back the following week.
My mom said to me, she says, if you have this baby, you'll have to do it by yourself. She says, or you can have an abortion. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, I can have an abortion? Well, let's do that. I mean, I'm 14. I don't want to be pregnant at high school. And so if it's coming from my mom, surely, it's a good decision. So, okay, yeah, let's do that.
A friend came running in and he said, "Jonesy, your girlfriend's on the phone. She's crying." So I ran out, I answered the phone, and she just kept saying over and over and over again, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It wasn't me." And then her father said over the other line, "Jason, we know your secret, and your secret's gone. And we took Katie to get an abortion."
In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions. The majority in cases from Texas and Georgia said that the decision to end a pregnancy during the first 3 months belongs to the woman and her doctor, not the government.
One of the things that most Americans think, and think wrongly, is that abortion began with Roe v. Wade. The truth is that every single civilization throughout all of antiquity and all the way up to the present time has had as a major component part of the culture abortion.
I think from the very beginning, I came of a large family. My mother died young, 11 children. That made an impression on me as a child. I was a trained nurse, went among the people. I saw women who asked to have some means whereby they wouldn't have to have another pregnancy too early after the last child, the last abortion, which many of them had. So there's a number of things that are one after the other that really made you feel that you had to do something.
According to New York Health Department statistics, we now know that there are more African-American babies that are aborted in New York than actually born alive.
Of course, the lack of access for African-American women, in particular, to basic preventive health care, including family planning, is a huge problem in this country.
It is,
well.
And I don't want to spend, and I agree with you, that's as a aforementioned time of places that we've served and worked in, but it does concern me that 3 times the African-American population is 13%, yet they're being aborted 3 times percent of the population at 35%.
At the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, there were a number of revolutionary figures who wanted to remake the world as a kind of revolutionary challenge, to remake it in a kind of pseudo-scientific fashion. They wanted to usher in Tomorrowland.
Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger, who was the founder of that organization, were eugenicists. And eugenicists are not killing babies because of some political issue. They are on a mission to purify.
Planned Parenthood began as a eugenics movement. This was to create the superior race. And the target of Planned Parenthood were those that they deemed to be less desirable, and they viewed the minorities in our communities as the least desirable.
She believed that, that sexuality is a powerful engine to drive social change. And so she sought to usher in this revolutionary new age, starting with human sexuality, and do it by scientific means, by eliminating unwanted people groups, what she called human weeds. And the human weeds were specifically identified as blacks, Hispanics, Eastern Europeans, Slavs. She believed that these were sort of lower on the evolutionary chain. And so to bring about this new age of a race of thoroughbreds, as she called them, you had to eliminate the bad gene stocks out of the human gene pool. Well, abortion, birth control, those kinds of things really emerged out of that ideology. It wasn't medicine. It wasn't to help women. It wasn't to give freedom of choice. It was really, how do we reshape society?
Planned Parenthood had a history, according to its foundress, Margaret Sanger, of targeting Negro leaders. And she said, Negroes are like weeds who need to be exterminated. We don't want that word to get out. So what we need to do is to cultivate some of their leaders, get them on our side, have them think that we want to help them. This is how Planned Parenthood went after African-American leaders. They still do it today.
The eugenics movement is dead. They don't call it eugenics anymore. Planned Parenthood doesn't use the word eugenics. But the fact of the matter is, the result that they're getting is exactly the same. It's the elimination of a race. Where are these abortions taking place? Minority communities.
You can sign a petition right now. Stop these new barbaric abortion laws. And they are barbaric. So sign that petition. It's up at aclj.org. Sign the petition today. Let's grow that petition because these laws, like I said, disgusting, barbaric, they must be stopped. We must counter them, whether it's in court, whether it's by other legislation at the state level, at the federal level. We must keep fighting these barbaric laws to protect the unborn children in America. Sign that petition at aclj.org.
The state of New York just passed one of the most barbaric abortion laws in U.S. history, essentially making it legal to abort a baby at any stage of pregnancy up to the moment of birth. It even removes legal protections for babies born alive from botched abortions. Now, other states are trying to do the same thing. At the American Center for Law and Justice, we've assembled our team to fight back. We're preparing to send Freedom of Information Act letters in an effort to expose exactly how involved Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry were in pushing this new law forward. We're looking at every possible way to challenge the New York law. We're mobilizing to ensure that these laws cannot be used to target pro-life doctors and nurses and force them to perform abortions. And we're examining other legal angles as other states look to pass similar laws. You can make a tremendous difference in this fight to protect life. Add your name today to our petition to expose and defeat barbaric abortion laws. Online, aclj.org.
I went to Texas A&M University and met a woman there who was with Planned Parenthood. She was trying to recruit volunteers, student volunteers, but also certainly trying to talk about services to recruit patients as well. I immediately was sort of drawn to her booth because it was saturated in hot pink, and that's my favorite color. And so I went over to her. She asked me what I knew about Planned Parenthood and told her I knew nothing. And I think for her, that's probably like jackpot. She doesn't know anything about our organization, so I can sort of sell her all of our talking points. And she started telling me about all the wonderful work that Planned Parenthood does and how low-income women would have nowhere else to go for health care if it wasn't for Planned Parenthood. And she did tell me that they did abortions, but she said it was just sort of this necessary evil, and it was just a very small percentage, just not very many abortions every year. And so I just sort of bought it and started volunteering with the organization as a student, and really believed that I was doing the right thing. I really believed that I was helping women.
You had a statement that you made that quality, affordable health care is your entire mission. And you made that statement. I actually wrote it down when you made it. Why would you not make an executive decision then to temporarily discontinue your abortion services, which only represents, by your testimony, 3% of the services that you provide, and continue providing what you consider to be your entire mission of 97% of the services provided?
Well, because abortion is a legal service in America, and we think it's important that women, you quoted me as saying quality, affordable health care, and that includes access to quality and affordable abortion services as well.
But you acknowledge that. Do you say abortion is health care? Do you consider that
Yes, it's a health care service for women. In fact, 3 in 10 women in this country have accessed an abortion.
So you define health care, abortion as health care?
It absolutely is part of women's health care, and women women would agree.
Planned Parenthood, for the most part, for most women, is synonymous with abortion. So when women came in, even if they said they were there for options counseling, they generally were there just to get information about abortion.
They call it reproductive care, they'll call it health care. These are words that are utilized to give it a more palatable sound, so that in the body politic, when the negotiations go on, they're talking about reproductive rights or women's health issues, when in reality, what we're talking about, and look at the procedure itself, we're talking about the destruction of an unborn child.
I said to Planned Parenthood, I'm having problems. And they says, well, you are pregnant. Let's do a pregnancy test. And then they says, you are pregnant, but you don't need a baby with everything that's going on in your life. We'll do something called a safe abortion.
I went into Planned Parenthood and they told me at that time, it's just tissue, it's like having your tonsils removed. And they actually paid for me. I was living in Colorado at the time, and that was before abortion was legal there. And they flew me, bought a plane ticket, flew me to California to have an abortion.
We had a script designed to overcome every objection, for that's what sales is. If you overcome the objection, you get the order. And in this case, this is the abortion. And we led her through this script. And she was scared, so she was easily led.
It's really a business built on a model of drawing women in for abortions.
I didn't know. I wasn't given any type of information as far as what it was. I was told that it was just a blob of tissue. I wasn't given any choices as far as ultrasounds or told me to, why don't you go home, think about it, and then come back. Nothing like that. There was nothing positive.
She would confess, I think I may be pregnant. We can take care of this. No one needs to know. And then the first question is, what's the first day of your last normal period? And she figures that date and gives it to the so-called counselor, who's really just kind of a telemarketer over the telephone, because that's what they were trained to telemarket. And so she gives her the date and she says, you're 8 weeks pregnant. Now, what did she do? She confirmed her pregnancy over the telephone. Now, you'd think she'd say, stop, how can you tell me that I'm pregnant? I mean, you don't even know me, you've not done a pregnancy test. But no, this is the pregnancy expert. The seed is planted, the fear confirmed. And then the next question is this good news or bad news? And she says it's bad news. Of course it's bad news. She wouldn't be calling an abortion clinic if it were good news.
We would talk to them about gestational dates and what sort of abortion they could do, whether it was the medication abortion or the surgical abortion, depending on how far along they were. We would talk briefly about what the procedure would actually be like. I remember getting a directive from my supervisor, that we didn't want to give them too much information about the abortion procedure. We didn't want to talk to them about risks associated with the procedure because we didn't want to scare them out of having an abortion.
I was in a back room. It was pretty much bench seating around 3 walls. There were about 8, 9 other girls in there, and there was a little draw curtain changing room with gowns and a big silver safety pin with a number on it. And so I was a number. And I think I was 514 or something like that. Those numbers stand out. And while you're waiting for your number to be called, you kind of make your way down the bench line and your vitals are taken. And the nurse or whoever she is, tells you this is what you can expect. This is the kind of procedure you're going to have. I had the vacuum procedure and that's it. And it was just kind of real, very clinical, just very matter of fact, like this is what you're doing, this is what's going to happen, wait for your number to be called. And so some of the girls around me were really quiet. I was very, very quiet. Some were crying, some were just gabbing with each other like it was, no big deal.
I still remember lying on the steel cold table and staring up at that bright light and counting backwards from 10.
The anesthesiologist came in and explained what he'd be doing. And right as he was putting my IV in, the doctor comes in and he just sat at the end of the table and he never said a word to me. He just sat and he looked at me. And he's flipping through a book and he's marking off things and flipping through pages and marking off, and that was it. He never had any interaction with me. And the anesthesiologist finally just said, all right, count from 10. Before you know it, it'll all be over.
It was very, very painful. I've never felt pain like that in my life. I don't even really remember them talking to me at all during the procedure. I remember the nurse giving me sedation and she just kept rubbing my arm, shushing me, telling me to be quiet.
And I remember looking around and seeing about 3 or 4 other girls waking up also. And I got dressed, feeling very groggy, and I went into the other room.
And I just remember waking up and looking down the row, and all these girls were just leaned over asleep. And once they saw me sort of stirring, waking up, they came over. They had a little bag with my clothes in it, and They just stood me up right there in front of everybody, got me dressed right in the middle of the room, and then gave me a glass of water and some crackers and sent me out the door. And I went and sat on the curb and waited for my boyfriend to come.
When I stood up, their sugar and cookies didn't work, and I fainted. And I think I fainted because of the horror of what I had done. I realized that I was missing a large part of me, and it was too much for me to take.
I woke up crying, and I was actually ended up being pretty volatile and got a little physical with the nurse that tried to come in time with a puke bucket because I was getting sick, and I slapped her across the face. And I remember because I didn't want anyone to see me. I didn't want anyone to know. So anyway, I was pretty physical, so they took me and they put me in my own little private room. And one of the nurses sat in the corner and just let me cry it out. And so I sat on a table and I just literally rocked back and forth. And I think probably a couple hours passed and I just finally got too tired. And they let me go. And interestingly enough, they don't let you walk back out the front. There's a private exit. And later on in life, I wondered, had I seen someone like me in the state I was in at that moment after that abortion walk back out the front clinic, maybe I wouldn't have done it.
At the ACLJ, we always give you an option to get involved. We always give you an action item, something you can do proactively, not just to learn about issues, but to get involved in issues. And we've got a petition up to stop these barbaric new abortion laws. Sign the petitions. They have an impact. Letting your voice be heard has an impact. Speaking up has an impact. The pro-abortion industry and their political allies have picked this battle. They started this battle with passing even more extreme abortion laws. We've got to fight back. Go to aclj.org, sign the petition today to stop these new barbaric abortion laws. We will talk to you next time on Jay Sekulow Live.
The state of New York just passed one of the most barbaric abortion laws in U.S. history, essentially making it legal to abort a baby at any stage of pregnancy up to the moment of birth. It even removes legal protections for babies born alive from botched abortions. Now, other states are trying to do the same thing. At the American Center for Law and Justice, we've assembled our team to fight back. We're preparing to send Freedom of Information Act letters in an effort to expose exactly how involved Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry were in pushing this new law forward. We're looking at every possible way to challenge the New York law. We're mobilizing to ensure that these laws cannot be used to target pro-life doctors and nurses and force them to perform abortions. And we're examining other legal angles as other states look to pass similar laws. You can make a tremendous difference in this fight to protect life. Add your name today to our petition to expose and defeat barbaric abortion laws. Online, aclj.org.